My name is Spencer Higa, and you're listening to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast.
Boom! I only have one tool to tie the fly, and his name's Jason.
No one's fished it because you have to have boats and you have to have balls that allow you to make the boats go down it.
This guy worked out eating a donut.
Just stick them solid.
Welcome to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast, your source for fly fishing talk, tips, and stories. In this episode, Jason and I stop by for a visit with Cortney Boice of Blue Halo Gear. Courtney is a super cool dude, excellent fly fisherman, talented photographer, good friend, and great ambassador for fishing. Oh, and he knows a thing or two about fiberglass rods. We sit down with him to talk glass rods, what makes them great, why and when guys might think about fishing them, and what advantages glass rods have over graphite. Courtney also tells us a little of his recent fishing trip to Iceland. We hope you enjoy our podcast. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and our YouTube channel. I'm Chad Nelson, along with Jason RV. Here is today's podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast. We are here with Mr. Blue Halo Cortney Boice.
Heyo!
Appreciate you having us over, and we want to talk fiberglass rods, Blue Halo, and just get some information from Court. Now, I have to admit, I've never fished a fiberglass rod, and part of the reason I wanted to film this podcast is for me to learn more about fiberglass and to throw that information out there to guys that might be interested in fiberglass, want to learn a little bit more. And so Court, we just want you to educate us on fiberglass rods. But
Sweet.
So you guys can't see it here, but Court has, I don't know, 200 rods up here on display. Fiberglass rods.
A lot. A good majority of them get fished only once a year.
And we were just outside playing with a top secret new rod, which we can't talk about on this podcast, but exciting stuff coming.
Yeah, real exciting.
Super exciting stuff coming. In fact, I was just reading about it online, and that's as far as I'll go, but it's new and we're excited for you.
Thanks. It'll be super awesome.
Yeah, it is super awesome.
First of the year is when you'll see it. It'll come out.
And it has a cool color, blue, something like that.
The color is awesome. Everything's awesome.
It is awesome.
But it's top secret. It'll come out like the first part of January. You'll start seeing some stuff about it, but it's top secret.
We can still dream about it though, right?
Yeah.
Courtney, I mean, it is really cool.
It'll be a game changer.
So you guys have both been in the fishing world way longer than me, long time. Give us a brief history, Jason and Courtney, on fiberglass rods, because I know they were big in the 70s. Fiberglass rods been around, I think I read, since the 40s. And then graphite came along, and now it seems fiberglass rods are really making a comeback. So you've fished them in the past, Jason?
My dad's rod that he had that I first picked up was an old Fenwick, and it was a nice rod. I really liked it, but right at that same time, Sage and Loomis and some of those other companies brought out the new rod, and so I just missed really that fiberglass time period. I mean, I just barely crossed into it, and then I've been fishing graphite ever since. But I remember the fiberglass rods, and I remember lusting after a Fenwick rod, and my dad saying, but wait, there's something new on the horizon. And I got one of the first Sage graphite rods clear back in the 80s, mid 80s. So I missed it, but I might dabble back into it. Yeah,
it's not too late.
Well, and now that's what guys seem to be saying about fiberglass. But wait, there's these new glass rods coming out, and maybe that's what you want to get. What about you, Court?
My
Fiberglass?
my first rod was a glass rod. I didn't start fly fishing like in the 80s, but nonetheless, my first rod was a glass rod. And for me, it was kind of, I was just barely starting out, so it was pretty difficult for me to cast it well. And that, is probably attributed to the fact that I just was starting fishing and I didn't have anyone to kind of teach me how to do anything. So for me, naturally, like a graphite rod felt a little bit better in hand because I could kind of throw it out there a little easier. So I kind of gravitated toward those, and I really liked fast action rods, and it got to the point where I sort of like I was losing a lot of fish and breaking off a lot. And so I went through like a knot phase, and I went through like a tippet phase where I was like, oh, well, maybe it's just my knots that I'm using are breaking, or so I went through all that, and then one of my best buddies, Jory, built me a bamboo rod.
Oh wow!
And that was awesome. And it seemed like I was keeping more fish, like they weren't, it's just protecting my tippet better because of the full flex that it had. And so that's when I was like, oh, maybe I should try glass because it's kind of right in between the two. So I tried glass again. I broke out my other rod again. And at that time I was a little bit better at casting, and I had, I just was a better angler. And I really liked the feel of it. And then when I hooked fish, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. And then I was keeping way more fish too that way. And so that's kind of what I thought. Well, maybe I'm just fishing, my graphite rods are too big that I'm fishing, and it's just popping them. So that's kind of where we thought, let's start making some rods out of fiberglass that people can just hop on and buy, and they don't have to wait. So we waited like 6 months from a custom builder to build us to roll us a blank.
How long ago was this?
That was like 6 years ago, probably.
Oh.
And at that time, no one, there wasn't like anyone other than like Eagle Claw that really sold fiberglass rods, fly rods.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's do it. It's before anyone was doing it. So we started doing it, and it took about a year before we kind of had a couple different tapers that we had ready that we felt comfortable with releasing. And then it just kind of started. We started really small and slow and organically grew. And then a couple years after that is when the whole industry kind of started, seeing the benefits and kind of bringing that back, and saw that it is something that's good to have. And so now just about everybody's got their own version of a glass rod. But yeah, that's kind of how we started off, and that's how kind of everything progressed to where we're at right now.
Yeah. So, so you mentioned, the flex. There's more flex in a fiberglass wad versus graphite.
Right.
How does the strength relate? Like I've been to shows and I've seen how you demo your rods, which is pretty cool if you guys haven't seen it, but you can literally bend them and have the tip touch the butt end of the rod.
Yeah. Yeah, you can literally take just the tip section, and bend the tip section in half and beyond. But yeah, they're super. So yeah, fiberglass just bends further. The properties just bend further than graphite does. And it is just because of the way that our glass, we use E-glass, which is kind of a more traditional feel than S-glass. Usually they're either made out of one or the other. S-glass is very kind of a faster action. But it more almost mimics, graphite. So for us, we're like, if we wanted to make a rod that was as fast as graphite, let's just do graphite rods. So we stuck with the E-glass because we like that kind of slower, more soulful deep flexing feel. But yeah, glass just by its nature is a more durable material because it's especially with ours, we use a unidirectional glass. It's a kind of a different weave. And so like if split shot or if you step on your rod or whatever, you know, like it doesn't fracture like glass. And then eventually one day when you're just casting, your rod breaks and you're like, I was just casting and my rod. It doesn't do that. It kind of stops fracture. So I have one rod that I slammed in my car door and it has stress fractures around the whole thing. And I was like, oh, it was a custom build and I felt terrible about it. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to fish it. So I fished it and I hooked into like a 30-inch bull trout with it and landed it. And I was like, dude, this didn't break. And I just keep fishing. It's
That's
just
awesome.
I mean, they're just so much more durable, the durability. So a lot of people, like a lot of guides and a lot of guys that just want a good, strong rod that they can just throw in the back of their truck or whatever, you know, like they can do that. Like you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I've had a graphite rod literally blow up in my hand like powder, and it was a boom. Yeah.
That sound.
Yeah.
That sound is.
And I think most guys
interesting
have
part.
probably broke some. Yeah. So, no, Jason and I, so the car door, we were fishing one day and we were just going around the corner of the lake, and so we threw my rods in the back of my bed, the pickup truck, and I have a bed cover, and we left it open. And we're going around the corner, and all of a sudden this gust of wind comes up and slams that bed cover down, snapped both our rods right in half, and
Oh my gosh.
fishing was over for the day. I mean, there was no fishing them. They were, our two rods were now in 4 pieces.
And it's such a common thing. I'm sure everybody's had it done. I'm just like, it's a normal fishing day. Break a rod, send it in.
I've only broken one rod. And
Wow.
it was just a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to break it. Like I'm always trying to break rods just to see, because you know we always have to try to put stuff to the limit.
You bet.
Like on salmon and stuff, just big stuff that pulls, you just like they like bend around your body instead of breaking. But I actually did manage to break my first one on a carp, and
Wow.
and it made me kind of sad because it broke, but kind of happy because I finally got to break one. But who knows, you know, that rod is one that we took to Iceland, and it was just slammed on the rocks so many times and just thrown everywhere, and so who knows, like eventually, you know, how much damage was on it.
What weight rod was it?
A 7.
Oh.
That's so cool. Well, it's interesting in the industry how fiberglass, bamboo was there, and then fiberglass was so much easier and cheaper to make than bamboo. And then when graphite came out, it was just faster. And I think as the time was, you know, you go with the most technologically advanced material, and graphite was it. Well, now, 20 years later, 25 years later, fiberglass, you come out with S-glass and different things like that, and the rods cast great, they feel great, they fish great, and so people are catching on. People are like, holy smokes, this isn't what I remember or what I heard about. And I think there's this huge resurgence, obviously, going on with fiberglass, and it's warranted. You know?
Well, the new materials, like the new, you know, resins and the new glass and just all the different modern glass technologies has made it so, I mean, just a full-on fiberglass rod weighs almost as much as, you know, a graphite rod.
Yeah.
So it has tons of benefits. Benefits being what? One, tippet protection is maybe like one of the bigger ones.
Mm-hmm.
What if you use 20-pound tip? I mean, if you're crazy enough to do that, I mean, you know. But no, you're right. Tippet protection, that's awesome.
For like dry, I mean, there's some people that literally have to fish like 7X.
Yeah.
Like they have to fish it or else they don't catch fish, you know?
Which is crazy to me, but again,
I know.
I don't do a ton of nymphing or dry fly fishing, so when I have to tie 5X, that's the lowest I've ever fished. I'm pulling my hair out trying to tie those knots because it freaking sucks.
You're thinking, this is going to break.
You're like, why? Yeah.
No,
Just wasted $15 on some fluoro 5X.
Yeah, on 1 liter.
Yeah. Sorry. So benefits.
But no, yeah, that's a huge benefit of that tip section.
Yeah, and that's one thing with our design is we did design our tips to be really sensitive, so that when you are fighting a fish or whatever, you hook up, if the fish is like running or if it dives deep or even if it goes under your legs, which happened to me 2 days ago, the rod just goes and just bends wherever, you know, like if a fish is going like that, it generates all that, it transmits all that energy from the fish and whatever's going on right into that tip, and it just responds and moves. But then the further you go down, you've got more, you know, sturdy fighting ability to fight fish. And mostly I think what people get glass for is the feel, because it's a slower feel, it's a different experience, and so I think that's what people like.
Let's talk about that just for a sec, Courtney, because let's say somebody's getting involved in fly fishing or they want to, and let's say somebody came up to me and said, hey, what rod should I get? I really want to go fly fishing. And I remember talking to somebody up at one of the shows this summer, and we were at your booth. And I'm like, if you really want to feel the cast, because the cast is so essential in fly fishing, it is fly fishing, being able to cast, kind of. Tenkara people would disagree with me probably, but to be able to feel the cast, to know what the line is doing, to get that feeling and translating back to your mind and your muscles, fiberglass is an awesome tool for that. And so, and anybody who's watching too, you know, I would recommend get a fiberglass rod, especially these new ones, because you'll be able to learn how to cast so much easier, quicker probably.
It's a good training tool, because you can feel, you know, on your back cast, you can feel the rod load up, and you can feel it release, and you can feel all of that stuff going on. And that's that in fighting fish, you know, even if you're just catching like a 10-inch rookie, like it bends your rod and it makes it fun again.
And having said that, I don't mean to say go buy a fiberglass and learn how to cast with it and then chuck it and get a graphite rod. Not saying that at all, because the new fiberglass rods, especially these that you're developing, are awesome to cast with, and they're great tools, period. I mean,
so say guys love fiberglass rod for whatever reason, but they do want more of a fast action type. Are those available? Are all action types available in glass rods?
Yeah, pretty much. For the most part they are. And that, I guess, kind of brings up a point too, like Jason said, there's, you know, fiberglass is kind of just another tool. It's kind of like having bamboo or like a spey rod or you know, whatever. It's just an additional tool, we feel. You know, I fish them like probably 95% of the time, just because it's good for what I fish. But
because you might own a few.
And we kind of do that. But I still fish graphite. You know, there are times where I want to do that, and but it's just a tool, straight up. Like, if you want to fish small streams and you want to throw dry flies, there's no better rod on the planet than a fiberglass rod. Like a 3-weight fiberglass rod, it's just, there's nothing better that you can fish with.
Yeah.
But if you're fishing tarpon, you know, from a boat, and you're, you know, whatever, fiberglass is still awesome because they don't break, and that's huge.
That's huge.
But, you know, some people prefer a different tool for that. Like if you're fishing salmon or steelhead or whatever, you're swinging flies, you know, fiberglass is still awesome, but you know, maybe a better tool is a 2-hander that you can fling out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's always, it's just an additional tool to help you have a better experience.
Yeah. A lot of us cast by feel, but I can cast by timing, and I do that. That's how I usually cast. But when I pick one of yours up and I can actually feel everything, it's just a cool thing for me. It's just different.
Yeah.
And it's something that I definitely appreciate. I can't wait to own one, eventually.
Can't wait for you to own one too.
It'd be awesome. But casting different tools, like you're saying, you have a job to do and it requires a hammer. You got to pick the right hammer to nail in X size spike or nail. And so
Totally.
you can choose to do that. Since we're talking about fishing, I would recommend trying out a fiberglass rod if you haven't for a long time, because they're different. They are really, they've made huge advances.
Well, I have read a lot of places, heard from a lot of guys that if you're new and you're wanting to get into fly fishing, a fiberglass rod in the 3 to 4 weight range is the perfect rod to learn to cast on. Good first rod.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I wanted to ask you too, though, about cost effectiveness. Is that another reason a guy might buy a fiberglass rod? They're more cost effective to make and therefore to purchase too.
Yeah, so they are. Yeah, they, depending on, like, S glass is very expensive. In fact, it's more expensive for the good S2 glass than graphite. But yeah, it's more cost beneficial to get a glass rod because it costs usually about half of like a nice graphite rod would be. And the other thing too is because they are so tough, you can kind of keep them longer. Like they last a little bit longer because they're not breaking. And sometimes like lower end rods don't have great warranties. But we have lifetime warranties on all of our stuff, and we also sell insurance, which is we're kind of the first ones to do that. We warranty if the rod breaks because it's our fault, then we totally stand behind that. But we sell insurance for guys that like step on them or slam them in their car door or whatever.
For guys like us.
Yeah, so for like guys like my brother who breaks 3 rods in a day.
Oh, really?
For those guys. But yeah, it covers 2 breaks no matter what, no questions asked. You send it in pile of pieces and we'll send you a brand new one,
Nice.
And that'll cover up to 2 breaks. So
that's nice.
So it's really good for the consumer to have kind of options, to have your lifetime warranty and then to have the insurance to back it.
That's funny that you said that, because I got a comment the other day, just last week. Guy calls and says, "Hey, those prices on those heads." And he's like, "Do you guys offer financing?" And I was like, and I thought, no, but we should offer insurance. But,
well,
yeah,
like you were saying, you try to break your heads. I mean, our heads go through the same testing, and we're smacking them on rocks and chucking them on the concrete. And
well, that's why I like to throw drop jaws with our rods, because they're heavy and they, like, if you have any type of anything in your graphite rod, it could explode a graphite rod just by casting one of those things. So it's nice to throw them because they put a test on. But I mean, that also says something about how tough glass is. I mean, if you can throw a drop jaw, like a triple articulated big, like 8-inch bug or whatever with a fiberglass rod, that's pretty impressive.
That would be awesome.
For sure.
That'd be so cool.
So real quick, Court, I know guys can go on your website and check out all your stuff, but maybe give us a quick run through of your rods, what you offer, and what's available for people.
Yeah, so right now we sell a 3-weight, and we sell 7 different colors. Well, at least 7 different colors. Our 3-weight, a 5-weight, which is in all the same colors, and a 7-weight. And that's another benefit is glass is, you can make the look of glass, the translucent kind of glowing lightsaber kind of look. You can't, that's the only thing you can do it with is glass. The only way you can achieve that is having a fiberglass rod.
And it is a cool look. No doubt.
In the sun, it's awesome.
What's the turquoise color? The Caribbean color?
That is the jade. Is
the
what we call
jade.
it.
that's what that's beautiful.
That's awesome. But then we're working on a whole bunch of new rods. We've got a 5-weight or a 4-weight and a 6-weight that will be available like the first part of the year.
And a 10-weight.
And then we've got bigger sizes that are coming. We started that project a while back and then put it on hold for the secret project that will be coming up here soon. But yeah, we've got some bigger kind of saltwater, bigger game rods coming.
Oh,
Nice.
so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was telling you, I mean, I was fishing a 6 yesterday, but I had a 3-foot muskie come up and put his nose on my fly. And I told Jason, that's the only time I've ever been intimidated by a fish. But I was thinking,
Don't eat me.
if he did eat that fly with my little 6-weight, I'm sure I would have busted him off. Probably wouldn't have snapped my rod, but I would have lost him for sure. But that's where a bigger rod is handy.
Yeah, true. 6-weight, you'd be able to get him in, but
Yeah.
definitely put a bend.
Yeah. Well, that would have been a whole new experience for me.
So, I mean, I use the huge rod because of towing giant missile-like flies, but then the other factor is always the wind.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to shoot those into the wind, I mean, that's where the stiff graphite can help you. But when we're talking about the new advancements in fiberglass, I am more than willing to check these out and can't wait to fish it and try it because I think it's going to be awesome. Like you're saying, if you do hit the tip top of your rod, huge advantage if it doesn't break and you're
Totally.
8 miles in, you know.
Yeah.
There's a dude that, Vic Johnson, that wrote a book about, he's written a whole bunch of books about fiberglass fly rods and other stuff, but I had a chance to talk to him and he said something that is pretty poignant. He said, you hook more fish with graphite rods, but you land more fish with fiberglass rods. And I think that's probably a pretty accurate statement for the most part, but yeah, just because when you do have them hooked, like if I'm going to go sight fish for some big fish that I know that could potentially break me off or whatever, or could spit me or whatever, I'm going to take a glass rod because it's going to still have kind of the power in the booty section to like move it around, and but then still kind of have that sensitivity to kind of keep, you know, and like with bull trout's mouths are so sensitive, you know, they bleed like crazy almost no matter what hook you use, and for fish like that, it's just so much better and easier on the fish to kind of take it easy, because I mean that's a lot of pressure, you know, to just be pulling fish in by the face.
Which ours end up on the shore really fast.
Yeah, they have a lot of fight usually when we get them in. But so I have read some reports that guys say sometimes, in some cases, they feel graphite rods are almost too sensitive. Sometimes, meaning they miss hookups because they try to set the hook too early because they're so sensitive. So I wanted to ask both of you, to your point you were just making, your experience fishing graphite versus fiberglass and the sensitivity in hooking fish versus landing them.
Good question.
If we're talking like in a drop jaw conversation in a streamer context, when you got the rod tip down, pointed right down the line, a lot of the hook set's going to come from your left hand, or they're going to hit the reel, and the rod tip's really not even a factor.
Yeah.
But when you're traditional trout fishing and you do lift the rod tip up to set the hook, I can see huge benefits in a fiberglass rod and tippet protection with anything maybe 5X and lower, and your 6 and 7Xs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see the graphite tip being a little stiffer, so it pulls on the tippet and fly a little better to get a hook set. But after that, the benefits are far outweighed, I think, with the fiberglass in protecting the tippet, cushioning the fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what Court said is just right on with that.
Yeah, I know I've experienced that. Well, we were out on the green about a month ago floating it, and I wanted to try nymphing because I almost always fish streamers, so I tied on a nymph rig. And I busted that thing off 3 times.
Just from
Yeah, and I was so dang frustrated.
yeah,
I don't think Jason's ever seen me so frustrated fishing.
because it takes like 45 minutes to tie all that crap on there. You're like,
I know.
"Oh, there's one bug, there's another bug, split shot, indicator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one of the big reasons why I like to just streamer fish.
Oh man.
needless to say, that wasn't a good day.
It's tough, yeah. And a lot of that's just to get to know whatever rod that you're fishing. If you're fishing a glass rod and you know it's slower to set the hook, you can set the hook in different ways to make it more effective. And it almost makes you more cognizant on how you fish your graphite when you do, because you know, if you're gonna trout set on something, you got to be on top of it, because it does load a tiny bit slower. But if you're fishing your graphite, it sets faster, so you're gonna want to set it, you know, wait until you see it. You know, it's just
So
it's
true.
all just, you kind of have to just need to get to know your tool a little better.
Yeah. It's a game. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Love it.
For sure. Well, we are excited to see, well, we've seen and we've played with the secret new sauce that's coming out in January. Anything else new from Blue Halo that you can talk about?
We've got those new rod sizes coming. There's a new color that I'm not going to announce, because then we'll see 100 of them by every company that will just kind of release.
Smart.
But that'll be awesome too. But we've always got a whole bunch of projects that we're working on, and
So one more. We just saw the preview for your new film, The Hidden, from Western Waters Media, which was killer. I'm so excited for guys to see that.
it's gonna be
The footage you guys got, the drone footage, oh my word. Phil, we're glad you're still alive. Anyhow, tell us a little bit about The Hidden, because that looks so cool.
The Hidden was awesome. We filmed, we like to film trout, and our films are usually, like the last 3 years have been in IF4, International Fly Fishing Film Festival, which travels all over the world in, a lot of different venues. But this year we filmed primarily in Iceland for brown trout. So that's what we were chasing. We wanted to get some of those big dogs in there, and it was an amazing trip. It's just a cool place, but so different, like the whole country is basically private. So fishing that country is tough. You have to have someone, like we had Fish Partner be our guides, and they took us around to different places that normal people, can't really fish. One of the rivers that we fished was a river that had never even been fished before.
Oh my word.
Some of these rivers are just passed down from generation to generation, and so they know, it's just like the landowner just owns like a mountain and it's got a river on it, and so they know who. And over there, it's most of the stuff is like Atlantic salmon is what they're really known for over there, and so people don't go to fish brown trout that much. So this river was in this deep ravine and a deep gorge, and the only way to access it was at the head of this waterfall, and then it goes through, and it's so steep when you're looking over the edge that some of the river you can't even see because it goes like kind of almost underneath.
Wow.
And so we scoped it out at first, and we're like, dude, I don't think that we can do this. It's too dangerous.
Yeah, how do you get down there?
And then we flew the drone over it, the whole thing, and did video of it, and then we kind of analyzed it, and we're like, it's maybe possible.
Wow.
And so then we're like, so at first we're like, we're not doing it, and then we're like, let's do it, dude. And then we're like, oh crap, we forgot the life jackets. And then we're like, oh dude, we probably shouldn't do it. And then we're like, no, we're doing it. So yeah, we just dropped in, and then you just commit, like it's a place that we didn't even know if there were trout in there, because huge waterfall, up here, and a huge waterfall down here, and everything in between. Like, how do they even get there?
That's so cool.
But when we were scoping it, we saw some bodies down there moving, and so we're like, there's fish, and you can see, it's like 30 feet deep, and you can just see stuff.
So did you have to rappel in, or could you find a place to climb down?
You can go down into the waterfall, but it's in a remote area. Like, there's only like one set of tire tracks that we followed in. It's not like a road. You're just driving on the tundra, kind of basically like a moonscape. And the tire tracks are just from our guides that drive up there. But they have access to this remote stretch of the river, but no one's fished it, because you have to have boats and you have to have balls that allow you to make the boats go down it. But there's just there's big drops, and there's big rapids, and there's unseen things, and you're just like, and sometimes the gorge is just so steep that there's no possible way to get out or stop or whatever if something bad happens. So it's just a commitment when you get down in there.
Are you going back
to float?
That's what I always ask people when they go somewhere. Like, if it's really good, they'll usually always plan to go back.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do those fish fight, the browns?
The water's so cold, and they're just so healthy. They freak out. They're almost like cutthroat, where you like, even to get a picture with them, you almost have to hit them over the head just so they stop wiggling. But they're just so healthy. But we took like our ton of our huge drop jaws and big mice and different patterns that we thought would be awesome. We're like, dude, if these fish have never seen anything, they're gonna destroy this stuff. But they didn't. It was like the exact opposite. In fact, it was on the plane home when we finally saw some of our underwater footage, and we're like, there were like dozens of fish in there, and we only caught one.
Wow.
And they were all massive, and it's just they were so picky that they would only eat little tiny. If we would have known what we know now, we would have caught so many more fish. Just little tiny natural, like midges and like little tiny bugs. That's what they eat. It's so weird.
I think it was Spencer that told us he caught his biggest fish over there on like a size 18 parachute Adams or something. And I can't imagine hooking up a 30-inch trout on something crazy. That small.
So, but their food base was just small stuff.
Small insects, yeah. There's mice over there. I caught a couple fish on mice, but it was tough. And yeah, streamers we were having some luck with, but yeah, it's a big part of their diet is eating char, and so we were throwing big kind of char patterns and stuff to them, and it was just really, took a little bit to figure out.
Interesting. I'd like to go over there and prepare more and tie some specific stuff, because maybe that's what it would take.
Yeah. And see, that's crazy. It really depends on the water. Where we were fishing yesterday, Jason, no joke, he had the new mega head from Drop Jaw Flies, and he tied, 8 or 9 inch fly?
It's huge.
And
it weighs a lot. There's tons of flies that are, but this is not like some doll hair on it.
No, not a pack of marabou on it.
Yeah, exactly.
8 or 9 inch fly, and he was catching 14-inch splake on that thing.
Crazy, man.
They
just
are crazy.
Want to eat it. So
yeah. There was just we couldn't see any food source in the lake where we were at, and they were hitting anything.
The 40-inch muskie tiger just hits mouth just right on the tail, and I'm running out of water before it gets to me. And that fish, I swear he was going to eat it, and then he just looked at me out of spite, just with that huge eye.
Yeah. He gave you the fin.
Oh yeah. It's been a tough week with the supermoon that we've had. All the fish in the west or whatever have been eating at night,
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that as an excuse.
That's totally why.
Is that cool?
That's totally why.
I agree. Well, awesome, Court. Appreciate it. It was good visiting with you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for letting me be on.
We love what you do, being a great ambassador for the sport. So, guys, hope you enjoyed this podcast. Stay safe on all of your fishing adventures, and as always, remember to stick 'em solid.
And don't do drugs.
Just say no to crack. I mean, you know.
Awesome. Go team.
All right, friends, thanks for listening to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast. Please send us your feedback. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and on our website, www.dropjawflies.com. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, or on our YouTube channel. Now get out there and hook a big one and stick 'em solid.